Is altcoin season postponed? We're going to be looking at the altcoin hype cycles to talk about this in a bit more detail with specific focus on quarter 1 because we tend to see periods of low hype precede periods of high hype, and this is where you can make quite a lot of profits from buying the fear and maximum pessimism in the periods of lowest hype and then ride that wave essentially to periods of maximum financial risk and at the same time extreme greed as well. So let's dive right into today's video about the altcoin hype cycle. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future, and let's dive right in. And as a preface to what we're going to be talking about, the Q1 hype cycle where we are currently in end of January, let's talk about end of December and my tweet where I said, is this quarter 4 altcoin hype cycle slowly coming to an end because highest hype is peak financial risk, lowest hype is peak financial opportunity, and peak financial opportunity is in the green zone and peak financial risk is in the red zone. And if you can think about quarter 4 being right over here, then essentially we were here. This is December, right? End of December is when we tend to see maximum financial risk. And just based on these hype cycles, this theory, I was able to understand that perhaps we're coming to a point of maximum financial risk, extreme greed, and that's going to precede a period of downside, not only in the hype and interest towards the altcoins, but by the same token, their valuations as well. So now as we're seeing downside in the valuations, in the hype, in the interest towards altcoins, we're going to be entering a period of lowest hype, and that's maximum financial opportunity, where many people will start to slowly bargain buy and enter on a discount when it comes to altcoins, because loads of altcoins have retraced 30, 40, 50% even. So as we enter this region, that's going to be a basing period for many altcoins to then appreciate and experience price advancement and price progression towards the upside. And it's really interesting to see how this ties in with the halving event in April. Generally speaking, we tend to see price appreciate both in Bitcoin but also in the altcoin market as well. We tend to see altcoins appreciate along with Bitcoin as it enters its pre-halving rally, and we'll be talking about that in this episode as well. But it's really interesting to see how we're in a time where we're end of January. We'll see appreciation going into the halving of April, mid-April, roughly speaking. So around mid-February, maybe, is where we're going to start seeing basing, consolidation, accumulation for altcoins before they embark on their next leg towards the upside, which probably is going to last a few months. Very similarly to what we saw back in October, November, and December, we probably could see another leg going into the halving event, but at the same time, we might see depreciation and devaluation in the altcoin market, and at the same time, for Bitcoin as well. This isn't going to necessarily happen just after the halving. This can happen just before the halving, right where we just see this distribution right over here and then have that correction occur. So if we look at the altcoin market cap, that just makes a lot of sense because we've seen a breakout from this macro market structure, price appreciation for multiple weeks at a time with very little dipping and reaccumulation. But now we might be breaking down from this structure here. It's not confirmed by any means, but generally speaking, holding here or even holding here and just dipping into these demand areas, that's what the altcoin market needs right now, a nice dip before reloading and appreciating higher, whether it's from here to get to this blue circle right over here, or whether it's the green area to get back to the blue circle, because we tend to see historic retests in the green area precede a yellow historic retest and then a blue historic retest that gets us to 425 billion. We've seen this on 2 occasions in the past where yellow for green, yellow and blue precede fantastic upside. We've seen a green and now we're in the process of a yellow retest, even though we did get some upside from that yellow retest, getting us to the blue region right over here. So we're still in the yellow retesting area. And the point here is, can we go a little bit lower than the red region right over here? Can we retrace a bit lower? And when we just think about these hype cycles with January, we're late in January, maybe we have perhaps some additional downside left to experience for altcoins. So altcoin season definitely is postponed, but for now, we're going to be entering that period of bargain buying in the next few weeks. Really important to be prepared for that because we're still in the downside period. But then we're going to get into the basing period, which will prepare us for that ascent going into the end of Q1, where we experience loads of updates in the space when it comes to fundamental analysis for these projects, lots of catalysts coming out, updates, mainnet releases, you name it. We're going to see a lot of that at the end of this quarter. So really interesting to just think about how this could tie in with Bitcoin's price action, because right now we're around 80 days before the halving, and historically we tend to see downside in Bitcoin's price action, and this is something we've been talking about for a few weeks, and we're now seeing that downside materialize. But after that downside, historically we tend to see strong pre-halving rallies, and so this tends to occur 2 months before the halving event itself, so that completely ties in with a pre-halving rally for not only Bitcoin but also altcoins as we approach the end of Q1 going into April. Makes a lot of sense for the altcoin market cap and Bitcoin. So we just need to find out where this bottom is going to be for Bitcoin in this pre-halving retrace. But just notice how the pre-halving rally is going to see Bitcoin appreciate in its price action, but we then see the pre-halving retrace. And this pre-halving retrace, of course, is where Bitcoin tends to experience a bit of downside, but at the same time, we're going to see that downside in altcoins as well. And if we're around April, around the halving event where this pre-halving retrace occurs, back here in 2020, that pre-halving retrace was 20%. In 2016, it was 40%. What if we get something 20 to 40% around this halving event? It makes sense for many of the altcoins around the halving event to also experience a lot of downside as we just enter that highest hype and extreme greed territory, extreme FOMO territory going into the halving event. We're ending this pre-halving rally for Bitcoin, but also ending the pre-halving rally for altcoins as well, because this is then going to be the time where these altcoins and Bitcoin tend and will redistribute going into the post-halving period. But we have to also understand that when Bitcoin redistributes and experiences its pre-halving retrace, it then experiences a post-halving reaccumulation range. And this is probably going to be the case even after this cycle. And if we focus, for instance, on 2016, after the halving in 2016, we also saw a reaccumulation range as well. So while this pre-halving retrace right over here is going to impact both Bitcoin negatively and altcoins negatively, this is going to lead and segue into a reaccumulation range, which could actually be quite favorable for altcoins. These sorts of reaccumulation ranges can enable money flow into altcoins. So even if we see crashing in altcoins later down the line, closer to the halving event, some reaccumulation for Bitcoin, which is going to last for quite a while, this could actually be really ripe for altcoins to perform well in the market. So it all just boils down to this pre-halving rally in April. But before then, we still have to see some sort of downside in altcoins, then maximum financial opportunity, then pre-halving rally, pre-halving retrace around the halving event. So this is going to take away a lot of the valuation and gains that we see, valuation increase and gains that we see in altcoins, and then distribution going into the summer. But it's probably going to be the case that once we've established a reaccumulation range for Bitcoin after the halving, we're going to be able to position ourselves quite favorably for the next Q2 hype cycle rally for altcoins. But we'll be talking about that a lot in the future on this channel. So subscribe to the channel. Feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Check out the video in the top right hand corner for more, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Speak to you soon.